St. Brown the Trojan proudly presents a recap of the National Basketball Association playoffs, where the courts do not solve legal issues, but boy are they judgy. These might be the end of the Clippers as we know them today. Well, James Harden's already gone, and I could definitely see Kawhi Leonard getting traded too. While you did make the play-in, you ended up blowing a 13-point lead to miss the playoffs entirely. Not great. Remember that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander trade? You are probably regretting that now. Although knowing you guys, you would probably mess that up too. We've gotten a nice trio of play-in teams for the past couple years now. Chicago, Miami, and Atlanta. And now it's diminished to just the Heat. The Bulls ended up missing the playoffs entirely, while the Hawks just straight up made the playoffs without having to go through the play-in. The Heat, on the other hand, had to face the Hornets just to even make it to the 8 versus 9 game, which did end up being the best playoff game of the NBA playoffs in 2026, save for one game. But let's be real, you were never beating the Hornets, as they were too much of a nice story to lose in the opening round of the play-in. Bam Adebayo might have gotten 83 points, but other than that, there's not a whole lot else to talk about this team. Let's move on. Can someone please tell me why the Warriors were expected to be a complete super team this season? This is why I don't listen to, quote, expert, unquote, opinions on the NBA. Because they already turned out to be incredibly wrong. Of course, it doesn't really help that Jimmy Butler was out for the play-in games. So yeah, you were kind of just burnt toast in there regardless. I would say more about this team, but I think a fake Grizzlies-Warriors series on social media got more attention than the Warriors play-in run. So I'm just going to move on now. Charlotte might have been one of the biggest surprises of the entire season. Going from a directionless, aimless franchise to a play-in appearance is always really nice to see as a fan of the squad. And then you have one of the most epic play-in games ever, with Kobe White and LaMelo Ball going absolutely off for your first playoff or play-in win in a long time. Unfortunately, you ran into Orlando this play-in, who ended up absolutely dismantling you. So in the end, all of that was for absolutely nothing. But now that we know you can do it, try going for the big one next season, okay? Well, Phoenix, it was nice seeing you back here, but not a lot you can do when the team you face in the first round is a giant that destroys anyone at will. Except for San Antonio for some reason, but we'll get to that. But back to this, it was a good season and you surpassed tons of expectations. Not much more to your run than that. I'm interested to see what they do in the offseason. Will they try to load up again, or will they just keep with this current roster? The ball is in your court, Phoenix. Oh, Magic, we could have some great laughs out of you for beating the number 1 seed. But it clearly wasn't meant to be. A 3-1 game series lead against the Pistons, and what do? Blow it like it's 2003. Now, we'll give you this. Game 5 was a very hard-fought loss that, as far as raw star power goes, was probably one of the best of all these playoffs. But Game 6, that was a different breed of pain. They channeled their inner 2018 Rockets for that one. 23 straight missed buckets. 8 points. 8 points in the fourth quarter. And then Game 7 was pretty much just the finishing touches for Detroit. That's the type of choke that ruins cores. Man, the Tampa-Orlando area has been a terrible place to be as far as holding leads go. How will the Rays bring the area even more pain? Well, even with the gambling scandal breathing down their necks, Portland managed to man up and actually make the playoffs. Well done, boys. That deserves to be applauded. Amazing effort by you guys. Except for the result of the actual playoff series for whatever reason. But then again, I don't think Portland minds too much. They're just happy to be here, in all honesty. But I do have one thing to say about Portland. After that, can we please put on some playoff shirts into the seats? It's your first time back in forever. Come on, let's get a little more excited for the playoffs than that. Wait a second, what's going on with the new Blazers owner? He's threatening relocation? In a weird development from the Hawks, trading away their best player in Trae Young ended up resulting in them becoming more successful in the process. Got the 6th seed in the playoffs, completely missed the play-in, which eliminated you last time. Ended up standing up to the Knicks even, took a 2-1 series lead. The city of Atlanta actually had some optimism for the first time in forever. But then the Knicks absolutely dunked on you in the final 3 games. Game 6 especially was a disaster. The Knicks led by 60 plus points for an extended period of time in that game. Woof. At least you may now finally have a sense of direction with this franchise, even though you do play in a really weak Eastern Conference. Well, the Rockets managed to acquire Kevin Durant, have a squad that's better equipped for the playoffs, and they face the Lakers, who are down their X Factor in Luka Doncic. Houston might have had a chance to beat the Lakers if Kevin Durant wasn't injured for the entire series. It was pretty much over after that. Losing Game 3 like that pretty much ended all series excitement for you guys. I'm actually amazed you managed to battle back and win 2 games, but then you just ran out of gas in Game 6. You may not really be losing anything, but this feels like a missed opportunity. Well, the Raptors at least gave us some very exciting playoff games to chew on this postseason. Game 3, a true battle back and forth until Toronto really pulled away at the end. Game 4, absolute defensive slugfest that Toronto just happened to win in the end. And then Game 6. Cue Kevin Harlan's famous "Is this the dagger?" call. If only you could win one on the road. But in the end, I have 2 words to say for you, Toronto. Scotty Barnes. Kid's gonna be crazy in the future. Well, that's another heartbreaking too early playoff exit from the Nuggets at the hands of the Timberwolves. And this one came in particularly brutal fashion, but not as brutal as 2 years ago. A close Game 2 loss, followed by back-to-back romps from the Timberwolves in Minnesota, complete with a fight. And when Anthony Edwards was out, and Denver was poised to make a 3-1 series comeback, and FYI, I considered them the most likely team to make a 3-1 series comeback, it turns out that while the Nuggets had Jokic, the Timberwolves had Jaden McDaniels. I bet you're now regretting that Michael Malone firing, huh? Boston, I don't feel like this choke was supposed to happen this year. When Jason Tatum was confirmed out for most of the season, if not all of it, pretty much everyone wrote you off. And then, your other players managed to step up. And then Tatum came back, and we were all thinking, okay, the Celtics might be able to win the finals. You even had Philly chant, "We want Boston" at one point. So we all just wrote this off as another Celtics series win. But then, Boston chanted, "We want Boston." Oh dear, you have just inflicted yourself with a terrible curse. Game 5, looked like you had it for a while, but then Philly just came back and took it. Game 6, Philly just kind of had it most of the way. Game 7, over the moment Tatum was ruled out. Boston loses their first series after being up 3-1. Philly wins their first series after being down 3-1. The city of Boston has now been completely stripped of the Titletown moniker, and no one feels bad. Time to do a laugh at them. Ha 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 ha. Who would have guessed that the nicest story in the NBA would be Joel Embiid? Seriously, man turned around his legacy in real time, and I'm kind of all for it. But then you ran into a team that was pretty much all out for blood, and the Knicks do not care for nice stories these playoffs. You will get swept out of existence like the cursed second round exits you always be. Embiid may have finally beaten the Celtics, but he hasn't gotten past the second round. And I guess the Grand Theft Auto 6 will come before an Embiid conference finals after all. Now I'm sad. The fact that the Timberwolves didn't blow a 3-1 series lead and Anthony Edwards managed to come back into the lineup for the series deserves more applause than they'll probably get. But none of it really mattered, of course. Pretty much just let the Spurs finish them off in Game 6. Not a good strategy if you actually want to win a series. On the other hand, I'm starting to notice that Julius Randle is becoming quite the meme for his playoff performance. If he keeps this up, we may have a new James Harden. Good luck with that, Minnesota. I smelled a lot of foul baiting incoming when it came to this series. A team whose practical strategy is foul baiting these days versus the Lakers smells like a formula for major free throw grind battles to me. What the world actually got was a full-on sweep. At least the Thunder made this series mercifully short. I guess there really wasn't much you could do when Luka Doncic, a notorious Thunder season killer, was out for the series again. We could actually have a really interesting free agency period this offseason, and the media will probably talk more about LeBron than anything. And whether or not he'll re-sign with the Lakers figures. Detroit, the biggest mistake you made all series was your social media admin telling Cleveland where to go for Game 7, because they showed up, and showed up in style. But you really should have closed this series in 6 had it not been for you blowing Game 5. Instead, you now get fraud number 1 seed allegations being tossed your way. But there's one thing that strikes out to me to Detroit more than any other team these playoffs. You need more. Find a way to get it. I'm actually amazed it took playoff James Harden 32 series to finally get swept, as he's been a meme for a long time now. At least Donovan Mitchell may have turned around his legacy, but I don't think Harden will ever turn around his. Sad, I wanted to see him win a ring, but the Knicks were really just too good. On a side note, can you guys please bring your sword and basketball logo back? It's much better than whatever this swoosh C is on my screen right now. The Spurs Thunder was definitely the best series of the playoffs by a country mile, and I think we can all agree on that. This series saw a giant be slain by another giant that can shoot threes. We were kind of all waiting for the Thunder to make a run to take over Game 7, and it just never happened. Oklahoma City now has some tough decisions to go into the offseason. How will they handle the free agency period? Their cash will be stretched thin to sign their expiring contracts this offseason. And this problem might be even worse down the road. At least this time, they'll be doing it with a ring to their name. That seems to be the end-all for a player staying in Oklahoma City. The quality of these playoffs varied wildly from time to time. They were either absolute cinema or unwatchable garbage, nothing in between. Let's hope that the finals this year will be in the former category and not the latter. Show us the teams. Spurs versus Knicks. I definitely expected the Knicks here after the Celtics blew that 3-1 series lead. They just had way too much talent to not get into the finals at that point. At least they fast-forwarded the East bracket as much as possible. That being said, I'm still wondering how in the world Atlanta took them to 6. On the other hand, the Spurs I were not expecting here at all. If you told me the Spurs would make the playoffs, I wouldn't be that surprised. But if you told me back in October that the Spurs would make the gosh dang finals, I don't think I would believe you. Victor Wembanyama does not care for being too young or too inexperienced. He will crush you with pure size. And boys, I'm afraid he'll do it again. Spurs in 6. Can't wait to see the Spurs rule with an iron fist for the next 15 years over the NBA. Matthew chapter 5 verses 3 through 10. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs.